The channel was disappointed that I didn't show the gauges lit up with the LEDs, so I want to make a video and cover the gauges, and I'll start out by showing it, showing how the gauges look. So let me turn the lights on here. So you can see it gets pretty good illumination. It's a little brighter in the video than actually in real life. These are LEDs up here, all four corners, and then over here on the control panel it's just an incandescent because I didn't want it to be too bright. But you can kind of see how it looks there. Let me shut this off and then let me go turn the lights on over here. And someone else on the channel had open the door here. Somebody else on the channel had asked about if I could review each of the gauges that I selected, so you can see kind of the state of things. So last night I built a little kind of pod here. You can see to hold the lower gauges. Let me get the steering wheel out of the way here so we can see what's going on a little bit better. So you can see I had the SR5 instrument cluster upgrade. Pretty simple upgrade, just pop it straight in. The only thing you have to do is you have to change the sending unit on the side of the block from the light to the oil pressure gauge, so be sure you do that. And then that will give you oil pressure, and then you have the coolant temperature plugs right into the cylinder head location kind of thing there. And then you've got the battery voltage, which is nice, and the fuel tank. And you get a tachometer. My truck's a 90 two-wheel drive with a 22 RE, and it actually already had the tachometer lead from the coil, so I didn't have to do any additional wiring. But real handy kind of upgrade for the truck. And then you can see over here I added 3 VDO gauges, and then I also have 3 AEM gauges. Let me turn on the AEM so you can kind of see momentarily here. Although I can't really leave the AEM running through the whole video because the heater for the Wideband O2 controller draws a lot of current to heat it up, and I'm running a lithium-ion battery, so I can't really leave it sitting on for 10 minutes through the video. But anyways, you can kind of get an idea here what I've done. Let me turn it off for now. So let me cover a couple things, and you can kind of see I'm still in the process of doing some of the harnesses and stuff, so not all the gauges are attached. I'll start with the pod. I'll put the link. That's a autometer pod that I think it's a Subaru WRX or something that replaces the clock. And I just flipped it upside down, cut it, and you can kind of see how I've got it. And then I took the original trim piece here and I just cut it down, and then I took another one of these trim pieces, the one that has the little cubby hole kind of tray on it. I cut the tray down and made it a thing that's a wedge that slides in and pops this up. And then I took the remainder of it and I cut the pieces out and just made some kind of a little bit ghetto, but I kind of like it, side pieces to kind of hide some of the stuff there. And then I just got my Phoenix flashlight under there. So let me cover the gauges and kind of why I picked them and you know what they do. First of all, on this side here we've got a VDO mechanical water temperature gauge, and it doesn't have a sender, it has a capillary that runs clear over the motor. I haven't put it in yet, but I welded in a bung for it in the cooling system. And the location I selected was the exit from the radiator. And even though I have a coolant temperature here that monitors the coolant coming out of the cylinder head. I wanted to have another gauge which monitored the temperature of the water returning to the motor. So that's why it's on the lower radiator hose area there. On the Toyota pickup, there's this kind of crazy crossover pipe, and I welded the bung in there. So that's where that's going to go, and the purpose of that is so that I can see how efficiently the radiator is working when the fan comes on or when I'm driving down the road. And I can kind of get a differential feeling, you know, okay, you know, it's the temperature coming out of the motor is hot, but going back into the motor, you know, here's the temperature. So that's the first gauge up there. The second gauge is a outside air temperature gauge from VDO, and the sending unit for that is bolted right by the air intake for the little stock air box on the outside of the truck, kind of underneath the front grill. So it will allow me to see what the outside temperature is of the air coming into the motor. And then also my girlfriend Abby, she likes to know, you know, when we're driving along, I wonder how cold it is outside. So this way I can kind of give her something to watch there, and we can see kind of what the temperature is. Okay, the one on the far right is a vacuum gauge. When I build a turbocharged 2RZ or 3RZ, I'm going to upgrade that one on the far right to a turbo boost vacuum gauge. But for the time being, it is just a vacuum gauge, and anyone who's ever run a vacuum gauge knows how handy they are. For one, if you ever have a backfire and a hose blows off, you can pick it up on the vacuum gauge real fast. Also, if something's out of whack with the motor, or you have a leak or anything, you can see that the motor won't be pulling enough vacuum and know that something's wrong. So that's the reasoning behind that one. And I just put those in under the radio. The radio is a stock Toyota unit, but I think it's a little bit later. It's got a CD thing here. And then I'm running a GTA kit streaming Bluetooth adapter. So if you were to look in underneath the glove box area under there, there's a little module that plugs into the back of the radio and allows me to stream music from like an iPhone. And the way you pick that up is you just go into the CD player, and that will stream in and trick the radio into thinking that you have a CD player when in fact you're streaming from your iPhone. And I hooked that up for Abby because, you know, when she drives the truck, she likes to listen to her music and stuff. Myself, I like to listen to the motor, but she likes to listen to her playlist. Let's see, what do we have down here? Okay, so let me grab the keys here, and I'll, wherever they are here, I'll turn the motor or turn the power back on. And I do not have the backlighting for the gauges wired up yet. I still need to build the harnesses for that. Okay, down here on the left, I've got an AEM oil temperature gauge. In the middle, I've got a wideband O2 sensor, which is welded right behind the collector of the header. And if you look closely, I have it configured into lambda, which will give you a stoichiometric for gasoline. You have to configure the gauge to tell it that, you know, you're running gasoline instead of, you know, methanol or something like that. But once you configure it, it has the parameters for you know, the lambda reading. So basically, a lambda of 1 is equivalent to 14.7 air-fuel ratio, and then, you know, if you're running lean, it'll be like 1.1 or 1.2 sort of stuff, and if you're running rich, it'll be like 0.89 or whatever. So real handy for diagnosing, you know, kind of how the truck's running. Is everything working? Is the ECU running in open loop or closed loop? You know, trimming out the fuel. So super handy. I'd say this is the gauge I monitor the most when I'm driving, is that one. So as well as the oil temperature. And I have the oil temperature right off the galley. The reason I have the oil temperature is because the oil reflects the true temperature of the motor a little bit more accurately than the coolant. Because if you think about it, the coolant is constantly being cooled down, so you can't really get a perfect sense of, you know, what the true temperature of the motor is. With this, it generally speaking, on flat ground at sea level, if I'm not, you know, driving too hard, usually the oil temperature is around 160 to 170, maybe 175. If I go bombing up a hill, you know, 1,000 feet up a hill or something like that, you know, it'll get up to 180. On a hot day, I've seen it go as high as 200. So that, you know, that really gives you kind of a good sense of what's going on with the motor and the temperature, and if something's, you know, out of whack or whatever. And then the last one over there on the right, and let me turn this off so I don't kill my battery. The last one on the right there is a fuel pressure gauge. Oh, we just lost the sensor lights in the garage, but I'll wrap the video up here. The last one on the right is a fuel pressure sensor, and I have a sending unit that I put off the back of the, I want to say it was, I don't remember if it was the fuel rail. I don't think I messed with the fuel rail, but it's, well, here, let's go around and I'll show you. Can't remember exactly where I stuck it. It was on the back of, I think I tapped into, let me grab a flashlight, see if I can see it here. I think I put it on the exit side of the fuel filter stuff. You can kind of just barely see it back here with a flashlight. So if you see that kind of beige color guy down there, I don't know if yeah, right there. So that's the sending unit. Let me see, I can't remember what the heck I tapped that off of. Let me see if I can see it back there. Oh, that's right. It's on the back side of the, let's see if I can get a line. So it's on the back side of the union fitting of the oil, of the fuel filter. That's right. So originally I was going to try to tap it in on the front side of the fuel rail. Kind of hard to see that. I was gonna try to get it in off the front side of the fuel rail, and then have like a little, fuel pressure gauge over here. And then I decided that was too much stuff. So I got a banjo bolt, and I can't remember if I tapped it or if I got it from Summit Racing that way, or what the whole story was. But ultimately I got it so that when the fuel pump pumps through the filter, before it jumps up to the fuel rail, I've got it tapped in back there. So it's getting me basically the fuel pressure off my fuel rail. And then if you see this little crossover pipe here, let me see if I can crawl under the car here a little bit. So if you look up under here, see that pipe right there? If I pan around and get the right angle. See that little, at the 3 o'clock position, that little bung that currently has a pipe plug in it? That's where the mechanical water temperature gauge, that's where its capillary has to run. I just haven't done it because I need to drain the radiator and change over to a different fluid. So anyways, that covers the gauges on the truck. For the person who was asking, I believe it was Eric on the channel who asked me about the gauges and why did I pick what I did and all that. So Eric, this video is for you and for everyone else on the channel who might be interested in kind of the state of the dash and the truck and the gauges. So all right, hope you've enjoyed the video and that it's been informative. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to use the comment section below. Thanks for watching.